it's Rachel Freitas, and today we're planting a sensory garden. A sensory garden is just that. It's a garden that appeals to all 5 senses. So I have specifically chosen plants that touch on taste, smell, touch, sight, and even sound. So a sensory garden is really just a tool to get you outside, to give you an experience, to be out there, and to get to interact with plants around you. So today I'm going to show you how to choose a space for your sensory garden, how to install a walkway, how to plan the layout, and then also how to get the plants in the ground. There are no rules about this. It's really just about picking the plants that make you want to come out and engage with them. This particular one is built with kids in mind, but you don't have to be a kid to enjoy a sensory garden. So my goal is to create a special moment here for both the kids that live here, but also the parents, so that they can enjoy time with their children and really encourage them to engage with plants in the outdoors. So when it comes to choosing a space for your sensory garden, you want to kind of choose an open area that kids or you really are drawn to. I went ahead and anchored it a little bit to this tree. The homeowner has kids. They already play a lot under this tree, and I thought this was a natural progression to sort of draw them out a little bit more. I chose to do 2 beds because I wanted to create a focal point and build a pathway through the middle that will, again, encourage them to be around and interact with their sensory garden. But we're gonna make it a hopscotch pathway. All right, let's get started on the walkway. So I just found the cheapest 12 by 12 pavers that I could, and I had my daughter go ahead and stencil the numbers onto them so we could turn them into a little hopscotch pathway. But you can do whatever you want. Of course, you don't have to do exactly this. If you decide that you want a pathway around your sensory garden, you can pick more traditional pavers or pull something in from another part of your yard. The point is just to have some fun with it. I also appreciate that these aren't perfect. Nothing in your sensory garden needs to be perfect. It's about interaction. I love it, it's simple. And Mama still got it. So now we're moving on to the layout. What I like to do before I plant is go ahead and put all the plants down just on top of the dirt where I want them to go in their nursery grow pot. Doing this just allows me to make sure I fully like the flow before actually putting them in the ground. I'm gonna start by planting sight, the sight sense, and I tend to like to start with the anchor plant, and in that case, that is this absolutely bizarre and incredible plant called a shrimp plant. I had never seen one before. When I saw it in the nursery, my son couldn't take his eyes off of it. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. I kept going back to it, so I knew that it had to be a centerpiece for our sensory garden. After shrimp plant, we're gonna stay on site, and we're doing the coneflower. What I like about the coneflower is that it's just eye-catching. It's a fun-looking flower, but it also comes in loads of fun colors that can catch the eye. So I'm gonna go ahead and set these here. I think that there's a lot of good levels coming down from the shrimp plant to the coneflower, and the coneflower is still gonna be a little bit taller than some of the other plants. So we'll get a little mix of height that you'll be able to see through and over. After that, we have the Brilliance Autumn Fern. Why I chose this for site is it's evergreen, it will give you year-round color, but it also turns this, it's already kind of turning that color, this incredibly bronzy red in the cold weather months, and I love it. It's also a great spreader, so it can kind of cover a lot of area. So I'm gonna put the Brilliance Autumn Fern here, so it can give you a barrier to the rest of the garden, or just create a border for the edge of it. And just so you know, normally I would lay out a garden based a little bit more on height and texture and accessibility to the plants. For the purposes of this workshop, I wanted to lay it out by sense, just so you have a strong connection for the plants that correspond with that particular sense. All right, moving on to smell. We have this sweetheart plant. This is an ornamental onion. It smells just like you think it might smell, but it's a great option, and it's potent enough that even walking by it, you'll be able to get a whiff of that. We're also making sure to include the tried and true lavender. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I need a minute. It's so good. Okay, we've got to include it. All right, so we've got two great smelling plants. I like the height and how it plays against the ornamental onion. And then once this is planted, it'll sort of lay down a little bit more flat, which allows this to kind of spike up. And it's still close enough that if anyone did want to lean over and smell it, it's easily accessible. All right, for taste, it's a favorite. Starting with some prostrate rosemary. I'm sorry, guys. I might be a weirdo, but I think everyone should have a rosemary plant just to do this too before they leave for work in the morning. That is so good. This type of rosemary is not upright. It is a prostrate spreading rosemary. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that here to continue the border around the edge of the garden. So also for taste, we have basil. It's a great one. Get the kids involved. Let them pick some of the leaves and use them for dinner that night in the kitchen. So that covers our taste. Let's go ahead and move on to touch. I'm gonna start with this gobsmacker. This is celosia. I'm sure if any of you are watching, you're probably wanting to reach through the camera and touch these. These are like little feather-like tendrils. I'm obsessed with them. Normally in landscaping, I don't use a lot of annuals. I'd like your investment to come back every year. In a sensory garden, I'm fully on board with using annuals. Celosia is an annual. It will not come back year after year. But in this case, annuals allow you to have another opportunity to interact with your garden. So I'm gonna go ahead and place the celosia right here. I feel like there's a really good relation of height between the shrimp plant and the celosia blooms, so I love that. Another great one for touch is this corkscrew rush. It's just a fun, sort of bizarre type of grass. For me, it just kind of looks like a weird cartoon character's hair. I love it. I think it should be in planters everywhere, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it right over here to, again, give a little bit of texture. You've got the softness of the celosia and then this like fun structure of the corkscrew rush. Final one I have for touch is lamb's ear. Super soft, very approachable, makes a great border in landscaping and for sensory gardens because they give you a little bit of height, not too much, and then also they sort of spread out. But even while they spread, they'll still keep their leaf shape so that it doesn't get super wild. You'll always have a little bit of that structure to the edge of your garden. All right, last sense, sound. This one's really fun because it's such a bizarre idea of bringing plants into your garden that affect your sound. But we've got these great northern sea oats. You can hear them when they shake. They make this really fun sound. So when the wind blows them, you're gonna be able to hear that really great rustling. Now these will spread and thicken, so I'm gonna have them make up for the back layer on the sensory garden. So it's gonna go here. So our final plant for this sensory garden is a cypress. This one's baby Moses. It's a little bit like a papyrus grass. Again, it's got that really great sound whenever the wind goes through it. And it's just a super fun little addition to look at. So the last opening in the garden is right here at the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and place it there so we can finish out that side. All right, I love this. This is exactly what I was going for. We've got height, we've got texture, we've got crazy plants that draw us in. Super happy with how this turned out. All right, so now I'm going to lay out the plants on this side to have a similar look, and we're gonna get them in the ground. Oh, I'm just so happy. Gosh, it's so good. It's so good. You just don't know how good it is. We did it! We have a really beautiful sensory garden here. We've got plants that appeal to every one of your senses. We have taste and touch and sight and smell and even sound. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I think that this is gonna be an enjoyable moment for years to come. So today I showed you how to choose a space for your sensory garden, how to lay out a walkway, how to plan for your design, and then how to get it all planted in the ground. Can't wait to see what you come up with in your yard.